Thanks for those of you who came a bit early. I've been playing a bit of Chicago blues. I hope that went down well. Not the hottest dance music for you nimble-footed Somersetonians, but maybe that'll come later. So, if anybody doesn't know me, I'm Dave Chapple, and this is my chance and my partner Glen's chance to celebrate 40 years by thanking everybody who has been our friend, our comrade in the civic society and the trade union movement as fairly left-wingers. Some of you might dispute that. And Glen and I thought, yeah, let's get all our friends and comrades and people who we respect and work together, which has happened tonight. Some of you have travelled a long way. But also to celebrate the fact that actually in 1983, Glen Burrows and I met. We were fervent supporters of the campaign in Great Britain to stop American cruise missiles being based in Greenham Common and other bases as a precursor to what the American presidency at the time thought was a winnable nuclear war. And that was a passionate commitment of mine, and still is, nuclear disarmament. So that's how we met. However, we didn't get together till halfway through the miners' strike in June 1984. So we felt what better to celebrate us thanking you, all of you, and many people who couldn't make it, for our friends and comrades, but to celebrate the miners' strike. Well, what is there to celebrate? Well, you'll hear from some fantastic comrades from the NUM and Women Against Pit Closures in a while. But for me, if that epic dispute couldn't be called a victory, my goodness, it proved that working class people, mostly without a university degree to their name, could organise with the support of people like us and go on strike for a whole year, where Maggie Thatcher was actually denying them social security benefits to their wives and children. And isn't that worth, I mean, goodness sake, we had a militant, didn't we, John? We had a militant workforce in Bridgwater. We had a 9-day strike once. If I hadn't raised 49,000 quid from the trade union movement, a lot of those postmen who were pretty militant would have wanted to go back to work. That was 9 days. That was 9 days. We're talking about a whole year here. So surely the resilience, if the result wasn't great, and we're still suffering from the effects of it, in my personal opinion, the fact that the trade union movement was a lot weaker, then we can certainly celebrate the resilience and the bravery and the sheer cussedness, actually, of the mining communities. And I don't say miners, men, women as well. So that's it really. Just to say, in terms of me mentioning the campaign for nuclear disarmament, the first guest of honour really, although Val won't be coming up here, is Val Bannister, because Val Bannister's a Bridgwater resident who's the only person I know in Bridgwater who's actually a veteran of the Aldermaston marches in the late 50s and early 1960s. So Val is the sprightly young gal there on my right. But Val Bannister was a mature student in 1984. She went back to university, at the University of Kent, to get a degree, and when the strike broke out, there were 3 pits going strong, and Val supported the Kent miners. So it's a delight for me to have Val Bannister, after 40 years, talking to some of the Kent people she supported in 1984. The other thing we want to celebrate, and he says he's zooming around all over the place, but he has stayed because he knows this is coming, is how many of you would almost like single-handed, with different troops of comrades, some of whom we brought tonight, sustain a radical theatre group for 50 years? That's Dave Rogers from Birmingham, over there. Dave Rogers. Banner Theatre, they're bloody good. They are bloody good. And they don't survive on any Arts Council funding. No council funding. They actually rely on the people like us and the trade union movement to keep them going. So look, there is some stuff there, and if you want to book Banner Theatre, they can't even afford to stay the night in a hotel. They've got to go back because they've got a gig in the north tomorrow and they're driving through the night. That's how committed they are. So a round of applause to all the Banner Theatre people. We have had an apology from Garfield Hilton, a charismatic Jamaican brummie who's led the Amazon strike in the Coventry warehouse for distribution and just lost out of 3,000 votes to be the first ever Amazon warehouse in the world to get union recognition, lost by 28 votes out of 3,000. That's the GMP union, and it's great that some GMP people here tonight, but Garfield couldn't make it. But you will hear a little bit, Dave, I think, about that Amazon dispute in one of Dave's shows tonight. And I went on that picket line, and I've never seen anything like it in all my life. Apart from the fact that I would say a large proportion of them were the much maligned non-white immigrant community. They were young and they were 500 strong, and they stopped everything, just like we used to do in the Royal Mail. They stopped everything. I mean, the bin men didn't get through, nobody got through, and there were 500 people on that picket line, and it's a tragedy that the Amazon recognition dispute only lost by 28 votes. So you'll be hearing about that as part of this great show coming up. I do have, apart from Garfield, I do have a couple of apologies. So the first apology is from Kevin Rowlands. Now, Kevin Rowlands was a very young, actually devastatingly good-looking young Welsh miner who was one of between 50 and 20 miners who every week picketing Hinkley Power Station, not to the detriment, actually to the detriment of Glen Burrows' reputation, because he lived in Wembley Hill. Glen would put up 15 to 20 of them every night they were picketing Hinkley Point Power Station, sleeping on Glen's floor. Glen was single at the time, and did the Wembleyite have a bit of a gossip about that? But Kevin can't make it, but he sent me a lovely message to say that he remembers sleeping on Glen's floor, and he does remember picketing Hinkley Point, although the Hinkley Point workers didn't come out. Finally, Di Donovan. Di Donovan's hasn't been well. He's gone down with flu. Di Donovan was the Welsh-speaking coal miner who, when the Dewlice Valley support group wanted to go out and get food to feed the families, they went to London and they had this policy to go and accept any invitation anywhere. And the newly formed London Lesbian and Gay Support the Miners wrote to them, and not without a bit of discussion and trepidation, Di set out for the Pits and Perverts benefit, which got them about, I don't know, 15,000 quid or whatever. It was the best benefit they ever did, and one of the first. And was Di nervous? Yes, he was. And if you see the film Pride, there's a little bit of heckling there, but actually Di wins him over. Di was the model for that character in the film. And I just want to read out, he sent quite a long message for you tonight, too long to read out all of it. In Wales there were 30 collieries in 1984. There were 2 in North Wales and 28 were in the ribbon of the South Wales coalfield from Pontypool in the east to Kidwelly in the west. And here working the rich South Wales coal seams were 21,500 miners. There are no deep miners now. It's fair to say that we've become cynical about the National Coal Board's intentions for the South Wales coalfield, because we've been taking strike action up to 1984, but had been ultimately unsuccessful and hadn't saved the pit. However, it was clear to everyone who lived in the mining areas in Wales that if the colliery closed, there would be nothing to replace it. This meant that our communities, far from dying, with no work, would stagnate and lead to another lost generation of our young people leaving Wales. So in March 1984, very quickly, the whole of the South Wales coalfield was on stop, and its men were on strike. There followed a period of cat and mouse, when the police, as we drove along the B roads of Wales to get initially to North Wales, and later to get across to the Herefordshire Worcestershire border towards Birmingham, to give us access to the working collieries of Nottingham, to get them to join the strike. I remember the cold nights giving way to beautiful mornings with clear blue skies. I remember the sense of achievement as we joined miners from all over the country that had succeeded in getting through the police cordon. That was the early phase of the strike. During April, May and June, the NACODs, that's Deputy Shop Fires and Firemen's Union, came and went. Nottingham continued to work. And we saw the creation of the Union of Democratic Mine Workers, and we had to resign ourselves to a very, very long strike. I should explain that with a few exceptions, we were lucky. There was very little picket line violence in Wales from the police. Indeed, little meaningful picketing at all. It's a fact of which I'm very proud. The 21,000 miners in Wales, all were out on strike for the majority of that year. In November 1984, 99.6% of these 21,500 miners in South Wales were still on strike. In February 1985, after a year, this figure was 98%. and on the 1st of March, at the end of the strike, it was 93%. An outstanding achievement, and one which emphasises the fact that the strike was strongly supported by the South Wales miners to the very end. However, without strike pay and with the attacks on striking families, this meant there was a dire need to feed the families, and the answer became quickly apparent for South Wales, London. And that's the story of Onthloyn and the Dewlice Valley Support Group, not just with Pride, but with London, to feed the families. I will send this whole document to those of you who are on my email list, which is probably the majority of you, because it's excellent. To conclude, I was lucky to have been born into a mining community in the anthracite coalfield of South Wales, though I didn't realise it as our children, our community, the very environment we lived in, was based on the principles of self-help and compassion for others, whether in the galleries deep underground for oppressed workers across the world, or democracy in Spain, which was smashed by General Franco in the 30s. Our reference points became those of our union, of our mothers and fathers who shared the hardships of what it meant to live so close to nature. I would like to repeat the thanks of the mining community that I live in. I would like to repeat the gratitude of the Neath, Dewlice and Swansea Valley Support Group, its miners and their families, who stood so bravely together then. And to all who supported the miners in 1984 in London and in the West Country and Bridgwater tonight, as well as from all other parts of the United Kingdom, thank you all for your significant help in our time of need 40 years ago. We have never forgotten you. Di Donovan. Okay, before I ask Chris Dando to come up, and Chris will explain why it's important to me and Chris that we have a Somerset miners link with this, because I've just read out something from the South Wales miners. You're going to be hearing from the Kent miners and Women Against Pit Closures live direct from Bridgwater Arts Centre. But you know, Somerset had coal mines, 30 coal mines in 1900, 13 or 14 in nationalisation, and the last one, Ridlington and Kilmerston, which Chris will explain, went through the 1972 strike. There was a violent confrontation at Dunmore, by the way, in which Chris's father was probably involved. It's important to me to link up, Chris will explain why, the Somerset coal miners, many of you in Bridgwater may not know there ever was a Somerset coalfield, based in Radstock, and the Kent miners. And there's an extra reason why, because I paid 2 lovely visits to Kent recently, and I found out that in one of the Kent pits, Tilmanston, they were known as the cider men. Why? Because a hell of a lot of victimised, impoverished, unemployed Somerset miners went from Radstock to help open up the Kent coalfield. So that's an interesting part of our history, isn't it? Anyway, Chris Dando, would you like to come up and say a few words? Chris from Radstock.
Can I say it's a great honour to be here this evening and to see so many of you here, and to me to see these fantastic banners hanging on the wall. And it's a real shame that we were not able to get the Somerset Miners banner here tonight. It is in the Radstock Museum. If any of you are in Radstock and you'd like to go into the Miners Museum in Radstock, you can see the banner there in all its glory. It has a nice picture of Somerset on it, and as Dave says, you know, there's not very many people now that realise that in the rolling Somerset Hills were hundreds and hundreds of people working a mile or more underground, getting coal out of that really difficult environment. Because in Somerset, a lot of the seams were really small, they were really narrow, they were really broken. Some of the seams were like that high, so people were bent double hewing coal. But it was still a very proud area, and most of my family, going back generations, were miners. And I'm actually proud to say that had the collieries not closed, I would probably have been a miner too. Not because I particularly would have welcomed working underground, but because of the sense of comradeship and support that comes from being a mining community. And I'm proud to say that Radstock is still very much a mining community, even though our 2 remaining mines closed now 51 years ago, and we just celebrated the 50th anniversary of the closure of the Somerset mines. And You may not have heard of mines in Somerset, but you've all heard of the Glastonbury Festival, I've no doubt. The Glastonbury Festival is only there because of the Somerset coalfield. Michael Eavis worked in a Somerset colliery to save his farm from closure. He would get up in the morning, go down the pit, come back in the afternoon and milk his cows. And he claims, he's quite happy to say, that his farm would have gone and there would have been no Glastonbury Festival without the Somerset coalfield. He is now president of the Somerset Miners Association, which still goes. They meet regularly. They still support around 50 retired miners, although they're all in their 80s and 90s now. And there's still an active community around the museum, and we've just celebrated the 50th anniversary by putting up some miner statues or some miner silhouettes outside the entrances to all of the collieries in Somerset. So you can now see where there was a colliery. We're also working with the Somerset Miners Association to do some interpretation boards so that people can recognise what remains of collieries around the area and see how people lived and worked on mine or underground. My dad was the Lord Secretary in Somerset. He was a proud NUM rep. I was very proud of my dad. Dave organised a fantastic event, what was it, Dave, 25 years ago or more, where there was basically everyone who'd been anybody from the NUM came along. There were some people from the National Coal Board as well. They've been forgiven by then. And it was amazing. My dad, this was so proud for me. My dad knew every General Secretary by name, and they knew him by name. And they all came up and said, "Wow, Rex, how are you? How long ago is it since we saw you?" That made me so proud. Now I'm a National Executive Committee member of my own union, and my General Secretary does the same thing to me. But as a little boy, like 11 years old, seeing your father recognised by people that I saw on the television every day was incredible. My dad led the strike in Somerset in 1972, as Dave said. Unfortunately, I think he was probably one of the reasons why the strike in 1984 was so long and difficult, because the Tory government learnt from the tactics that the NUM successfully deployed in 1972, principally flying pickets. My dad was one of the original flying picket organisers. He spent a significant amount of the strike organising and delivering picketing in all the tiny little ports and railway halts that the coal board was trying to smuggle coal in. They would get a phone call to say, there's a little ship coming in with a couple of 100 tons of coal, it's landing on this little slip somewhere, and they would be met by a flying picket organised by my dad. So I didn't see him for weeks on end, because he was up even earlier than when he went to pit to go and be a flying picket or organise a flying picket, and then come back again. And then his afternoons and evenings were spent being aggressively interviewed on the television or aggressively interviewed on the radio, because of course there were power cuts, and he was responsible for that. It wasn't the coal board or the government that was responsible for that. So I was at school and my schoolmates were forever saying, "We didn't have any power last night, that's your fault, that's your dad's fault, I saw him on the television." And so I was able to educate them about what trade unions were and why it was important that communities stood together. So I was really proud of my dad for that, but I was also really disgusted about what happened next, because my dad was then on the economically blacklist. My dad, when he was made redundant, age 55, was a really skilled and talented electrician, and he went for loads and loads of jobs, got loads and loads of jobs, spent about a fortnight in work, and then the boss would tap him on the shoulder and go, "Sorry Rex, we got to let you go." Why? I'm doing the job, I'm doing a really successful job. "Yeah, but you're on the blacklist, so we've been told we can't employ you, we've got to let you go." So he lost every single job he went for. It didn't matter where it was, in a quarry, working for the government, working for local factories. They were all subscribing to the economically blacklist. I saw it once, disgusting document. And so he never worked again, basically. He was made redundant at age 55, and he never worked again, because everywhere he went, people said, oh, you're on the blacklist, so we can't employ you. So that gave me a real grounding in how evil the state can be, and how vindictive the state can be, which is why when I started work, I worked for the civil service, and I came home. This was at the GCHQ strike, when the government decided that union members at GCHQ were the enemy within and banned them from being trade union members. I organised a walkout in Bath where I was working, and I was on the television being interviewed by the BBC. Again, very similar language to when they interviewed my dad. And I said, oh, I'm on the television. And they went, and my mum said, what on earth are you doing? You're not a trade union member, are you? Yeah. She said, well, you remember what they did to your dad? I said, yeah. Well, I did to you. I did to you. I said, well, I don't care. And my dad was quite proud of the fact that I was a trade union member. My mum was panicked because she thought I was going to lose my job the next day and then never get another one. But it didn't deter me. I got more involved in my union. I'm now president of my employer group, so I do all the national negotiations for the Ministry of Defence, not really the nuclear stuff. And also I'm on the National Executive Committee. I've been doing that now for 42 years. So, although it destroyed my career, because I never got promoted, because I'm a trade union rep, so you don't promote trade union reps, do you? It's given me a grounding in what's important. We supported the Welsh miners in the '84 strike. We had quite a lot of Welsh miners in Radstock. We raised a lot of money. We had buckets. We had cases where people in the shops donated tons and tons of food. We did what we could to keep them going. I'm really sorry that the strike wasn't successful, because it really put trade unionism back, but it built an awful lot of solidarity, and I can see that solidarity in this room now. So, solidarity to all of you, and thanks, Dave, for all your efforts.
There are, before I say a little bit about our Kent guests, I do want to single out a few people, because there are quite a few people here who are veterans of the 1984 strike in Somerset and the strike support. There's Brian Smedley, there's obviously Glen, John Burbage, who's here, organised a collection every week in his factory in Crewkerne for the miners, and Barry Leithwood, Julian Tomlin, and other people who can't be here, were part of a network which survives in that wonderful banner. It's only the bottom part, the Somerset Community Defence Campaign banner, and that was basically, you'll see the red image of Somerset in the middle, and this brings me on to my next special guest of honour, which is the banner maker Dave Lockett, who's here. Dave, can you stick your hand up? Where are you? There he is, okay. So I first met Dave when we were playing cricket together in Aylesey many years ago. And Dave has been a significant banner maker, and that's his wonderful Men at Trade Union Council banner. I mentioned the Defence Campaign banner, and both contain the image of Arthur Cook. Arthur Cook, who was the leader of the miners in the general strike, but who was a farm boy from Wookey in Somerset, and we're very proud to have one of the best, most principled, most moral, and my goodness, was A.J. Cook a speaker. It hasn't really gone down in traditional history. You talk to any mining community, including the Kent community, even now, retired miners by A.J. Cook, and they will tell you of a time in the early 1920s when all that had to happen in the mining community was that the call would go out for A.J. Cook to be speaking, and 3/4 of that community would be there. It's on record that in St Helens, men and women walked all over Lancashire, 80,000 strong, just to hear A.J. Cook. And of course, there's 80,000 of them. They ain't going to hear him, are they? Because there's no microphones. but that's why we're proud of A.J. Cook. And last but not least, in terms of local figures, Chris Dennett's here, who's half Somerset, half Welsh, and supported the miners over in Merthyr. And obviously, when Chris Dennett came back to Somerset, Chris, it's great to see you as well. So one other Bridgwater story is Greg Dunster. I only gave him 2 days' notice because this has taken a lot of organising. So Greg Dunster was, I think, a 13-year-old lad. Chunky Nuts, who some of you might know if you're Bridgwatarians, was a real carnivalite going back generations. And a socialist, one of possibly the lost tribe of Bridgwater's working class socialists, although we still have a Labour council, thank goodness, that does its best. It's certainly left of centre. And anyway, so the heritage that Greg inherited from his mum and dad was that one Sunday morning in 1984, him and his pals cycled all the way to Hinkley Point to hand over their pocket money to the pickets. So, that's an example of what went on. Okay, over to Kent. So, we have Ray Lawton, who I don't know well, but is actually an unsung hero. He says he never speaks in public. He's not a figurehead. He takes the wonderful Kent banners around everywhere. Ray was sacked, as you'll hear from Terry probably, after a sit-down strike in June 1984. The entire branch committee of Betteshanger, the most militant pit in Kent, and one of the most militant pits in Britain, was sacked for reasons which probably Terry Harrison will explain. So give a warm welcome to Ray Lawton. Ray. Because he's had to shuffle things around because of the long and arduous journey from Kent. The order isn't what you saw in your little flip chart. On top of the bill now is a wonderful lad in Betteshanger Colliery when almost the entire Lodge Pit Committee was sacked because of their stay-down strike to stop the solitary scab going into the pit in June 1984. Tim was one of the lads who kept the union going because the entire union, including advice on accidents, advice on redundancy, advice on all sorts, had to be done at the welfare club outside the pit because they weren't allowed on the premises because they'd been sacked. They were a stay-in strike to oppose a scab, and probably Terry will mention that as well. So Tim helped keep that union going until Betteshanger shut in 1989. But Tim, since he's retired, has also been a teacher. He's taught himself how to play the guitar. He sings and writes his own songs, some of which might be about mining. Tim Hughes. Tim. Last but not least, before we have Banner Theatre's first show, is Liz French. Liz, I don't really need to say anything about Liz herself, except to say that Liz came here in the September of 1985 with John Moyle, who was the president of Betteshanger NUM, on a tour for the sack miners, and Liz's husband, Terry French, was one of the sack miners. When Terry came out of jail, I'll leave Liz to tell you the story if she wants to. When Terry French came out of jail, one of the first places that invited him was our Somerset Community Defence Campaign, and Liz and Terry came down to Bridgwater what to do to help save the maternity hospital. And some of you might think, what's that all about? What's somebody from the NUM coming down to save the maternity hospital? I'll tell you why, and we argued this ferociously against some of the people in the movement. Who better to talk about the NHS and free NHS than the National Union of Mine Workers, who helped to set up the NHS anyway through their own pit welfare schemes and their own pit health schemes. So we were proud to have a sacked and jailed miner, Terry French, come down with Liz in 1985, and Terry went down to Storeham. So I hope everybody here knows a little bit about Women Against Pit Closures. It took a little bit of a while to get off the ground. No doubt some mines which are a bit more male-dominated than others weren't too happy with women zooming out the kitchen and onto the picket line and speaking to 5, or in Liz's case, 20,000 people in touring America. But Liz has been one of the stalwarts of Women Against Pit Closures. Liz French. Finally, and then it's Banner Theatre. I forgot, one more. I did mention you, Brian, didn't I? As one of the people who supported the miners. But one person who I do want to mention hasn't been too well, can't stay here all night, but in my opinion is Somerset's premier creative writer, and his book on Wuhan, a historical novel, is, I don't read many novels, and that's an 800-page novel, and I read it twice in a month, which is pretty good going for Dave Chapple. John Fletcher, thanks for coming, John. So John Fletcher isn't just a fantastic creative writer, but also he's a proud member of Unite the Union and my branch of Unite the Union. So John, it's great to see you. Okay, Terry Harrison. Terry Harrison, believe it or not, helped to lead his first stay-down strike, a successful strike against redundancies, when any other pit in Britain, more or less, was giving up the fight against redundancies and the conversion to oil and the conversion to nuclear, around about the late 50s, early 60s. Betteshanger had a stay-down strike. Betteshanger had a stay-down strike in 1960 to stop young boys being made redundant. And Terry Harrison was a veteran of that. He was a veteran of a stay-down strike in 1960 from 1977 to the pit closed in 1989. Terry Harrison was the branch secretary of one of the best organised workplaces in Britain, one of the best organised NUM pits in Britain. Terry Harrison. Okay, now for the wonderful Banner Theatre Day. Banner Theatre.
It's going to be, it's great to celebrate Dave's anniversary. Banner's got a long tradition of connection with the mining community. In fact, we played in Betteshanger and Snowdon in 1972 with our very first show. I don't know if any of you were there. Yes. Yeah, great. And it was brilliant. It was packed out, and we had a wonderful response. I was rehearsing with my daughter on my back at that point in stage, as life was tough. But anyway, so it's great to be here. Dave has said he wants us to do the show the other way around to what we normally do. I was explaining that doesn't mean we start with the encore and then work back. What it means is we're going to do our second half, which kind of, the miners' strike, the way we tell the story is based mainly on Banner work full time during the miners' strike, supporting, and there was no money. We used to go on, sign on in the morning, get Dave Dale's guitar at the pawn shop, then go up and play on the picket line or a minor support stuff. So we played mainly in the area that was round us, so it was predominantly in South Yorkshire and South Wales. We didn't come down to Kent, I don't think, during the strike. And the show we're doing in the second half will be interviews with people we did after that, and we recently went back to some comrades and interviewed them as well. But the second half, one of the major points we're making in the first half was the miners' strike was deliberately set up, deliberately planned by the Tory government. The objective was to break the NUM and institute neoliberalism, and that's exactly what we've got today. We've got neoliberalism, which means people are begging on the streets, and the destruction of the health service and all of our public service. That was planned and plotted. It was not an accident. That's our argument anyway. They don't say it on the BBC or on Chapple 4, but there you go. So we're taking you now to the struggles today against neoliberalism and against, which link, in our opinion, to the miners' strike, the historic, brilliant miners' strike in 1984-95. We tell two stories. One is the Amazon strike in Coventry. As Dave said, it's great to go down on a picket line when you're supposed to have 6 people on the picket line. There's 500. What are they going to do? Arrest them all? So that's the one story we're telling, and the other one is the one which, of course, was all over your news. The biggest general strike in human history, when 250 million people came out in support of the Indian farmers who were fighting against the Modi government a couple of years ago. Did you know about that? Yes. Okay, you do. Most people don't. So, true, isn't it? So, yeah, it's called Battle Lines, and instead of part 1, it's part 2, and we'll try and remember where we are.
An old man living down our street, not too clever on his feet. 18 months on the waiting list, cracked with pain till he don't exist. Oh, too late, too out of date. He's never gonna get that hippery craze. All to the rich, crumbs to the poor. If you're old and sick, nothing at all. Look out, beware, the rats are running underneath your stairs. Nowhere to hide, vultures fly in the morning sky. No time to rest, too late to run, nowhere to shelter under the sun. Amrita, she works for land, plowing the fields of Rajasthan. The price of wheat goes down and down, devastation haunts this town. Profiteers from across the state, seizing land at bottom rate. She fights for a future, fights to be free, fights to feed her family. Look out, beware, the rats are running underneath your stairs. Nowhere to hide, vultures fly in the morning sky. No time to rest, too late to run, nowhere to shelter under the sun.
BJP government came to power in 2014.
Women do more than 80% of the farm work, especially since we are agrarian distress, because men are generally migrating for wage work.
The government brought in these pro-corporate, clearly anti-farmer laws.
Of course, in Modi's era, even women are migrating to the urban areas now, because no household can afford to keep two birds burning.
From Salvador, but a house and a boat. Politics came down, try to shut the program down. Giving men dictate the rules, all those stories, all those songs, all the shadows of the night.
Look out, beware, the rats are running underneath your stairs. Nowhere to hide, vultures fly in the morning sky. No time to rest, too late to run, nowhere to shelter under the sun.
There was a great dip in public subsidies.
Hundreds and thousands of farmers waiting to death
You have around 400,000 suicides.
because of this increase in the cost of production and decrease in the price that he's getting for his crop.
I know of a man across the sea who'll take his country free. Shall invaders came for oil, conquistadors on the golden soil. They took the farms, destroyed the fields, still your people would not yield. Freedom seeds free from the earth, reclaim the land above and earth. Look out, beware, the rats are running underneath your stairs. Nowhere to hide, vultures fly in the morning sky. No time to rest, too late to run, nowhere to shelter under the sun. The palatial cities in the sky, forgotten slums where the homeless die, endless fields of golden grain, starving children crack cocaine, leaving bombers on command, starving people, broken land, melting ice caps, poison seas. Yes, this is the land where the dollar roams free. Stand firm, unite, take back the day, take back the night. Kelly, shallow, England, kiss and nectar's in the bag. Arm in arm, banners unfurled. We don't want crumbs, we want the world.
We invited all the brilliant farmers organizations to come together and join us.
Literally hundreds of thousands of farmers came and stayed put on the highways leading into India's capital city, Delhi.
You see, when the police repression started, the women started coming and sitting on the borders of Delhi, which were blocked by the farmers.
There was a very big meeting in Delhi, more than 500 farmers organizations. We gave it a new name which has become very famous, that is the Sanyukta Kisan Morcha. That means in English, United Farmers Front.
We are the farmers, we come from Vermont, we come from Ludhiana, Jalandhar and Mysore. We come from Haryana, Punjab and Rajasthan. We're here and we're drawing a line in the sand. Modi, are you listening? We are not afraid. 200,000 tractors cross your barricades. Red, green and yellow, turbans in the sun. A tidal wave of workers, the fight has begun. We march to Delhi, we march across the land. Farmers, workers, Zindabad. We march together, united we stand. Farmers, workers, Zindabad. Feed the hungry cities, we feed the rural poor, we feed the teeming masses from Leeds to Lahore. Our rice, corn and sugar feed the people of his land. We won't let the rich rob the harvest of our hands. We will not surrender our right to MSP. Fair rates for our labour, prices guaranteed. No more suicide, poverty or death. At last the tide is turning, we have no regrets. We march to Delhi, we march across the land. Farmers, workers, Zindabad. We march together, united we stand. Farmers, workers, Zindabad.
For 1 year and 15 days, 5 or 6 major highways coming into Delhi, they were totally blocked.
Kitchens were set up. We had groups of advocates coming in from various parts of the country to fight legal cases.
The farmers, they braved the heat, the cold, the rain.
So schools started springing up, libraries started springing up. We had doctors providing medical care services.
You hosed us with sewage, you beat us with clubs. You tried to divide us with spies and thugs. But spikes in our road shut down the net. still we stand in peace, we defy your threats, and we won't bow down to multi-billionaires, Reliance and Adani, corporate profiteers, Monsanto and Bayer will not steal our land, repeal the bloody farm laws, this is our demand. We march to Delhi, we march across the land, farmers, workers, Zindabad. We march together, united we stand, farmers, workers, Zindabad.
Close down India. That was the call given by the farmers' organization. All the working class organizations of India, all the trade unions, they also supported, they also gave a general strike call on the same day, and this also had a tremendous impact all over the country. Farmers fighting on the one hand, workers fighting on the other. In the general strike, anything between 200 million to 250 million workers actually joined the general strikes.
Nurses and teachers together unite, miners and dockers join the general strike, 250 million rally to the call, the rising of the farmer is the rising of us all the world is watching while you scheme and dispossess, we demand a future where no one is oppressed. Narendra Modi, we are not your fools. Get out of our way, it's time for us to rule. We march to Delhi, we march across the land. Farmers, workers, Zindabad. We march together, united we stand. Farmers, workers, Zindabad.
On the 19th of November 2021, just 7 days before 1 year of this struggle was over, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi had to announce
This farmers' movement became too much of a price to pay, to a point where he just had to announce that he was repealing these laws.
in a television address, and that, as you know, was a very historic victory of all the farmers' organizations of India and also of the working class of India.
But for several months now, a revolt has been brewing here at Amazon's sorting centre in Coventry.
Amazon is facing its first ever strike from UK workers.
The first in the UK to go on strike.
Amazon is involved in so many sectors and so many different companies and stuff like that, and still growing and buying, you know, that they have influence in just about every sector.
I'm here because we're struggling. We're struggling because we're being used. This is a modern slavery. We're not being paid enough.
We are on the edge to decide, do we want to live in a matrix? Or do we want to live as humans?
His company is estimated around over $1 trillion. He has so much money he doesn't know what to do with. He's flying out to space, buying yachts, and yet the people that are making him this profit, making him this money, are dying on the job.
There is a lot of oppression. There's a lot of circles of gangsters, professional gangsters in Amazon.
I'm dealing with a vast multitude of items of various nature. It can be pens, it can be toys, notebooks, stationery, beauty products, power tools, electronics.
Pressure work, you have to just be on your target, which is basically 100%. You have to receive, I think, 100 item per hour, something like that, which sometimes it is impossible when you're getting a huge boxes, only 4 items in.
I mean, we have Italians, Germans, people from the US to support our Coventry workers. Because, again, this isn't just a California fight or a US fight or a Coventry UK fight, it's a global fight.
At the end of the day, they are coming to you and just asking why your target is low today. And they don't think that day maybe just I've got a bad day and I didn't sleep at night, or I'm tired, or I'm not feeling good.
If you say always yes, maybe, you can survive. But you have to say yes, yes, yes for everything. Well, it's a transport mainly. There's a couple of billionaires in the world telling us what we need.
I'm now getting to the end of my tenure where I've got issues with my elbow here. This, I can't sleep on that properly at night. It's now getting stiff. This is since my arrival and working at Amazon.
People's eyes are on you, mate. Don't slow down, or they'll chop your right. Laptops wasting chocolate delight. Rolling, 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 day and night. Long hours, low pay. The Amazon way.
One more piece in Bezos' plan. Hong Kong, France, UK, Taiwan. Toothpaste, cat food, living trays, all locked up
In the Amazon maze.
ripped off all day.
That's the Amazon way. Up in the box of boss men stand, checking every twist, every turn of your hand. Brace those shoulders, stiffen that back, don't get sick, you'll get the sack.
No voice, no say.
The Amazon way. Well, Jeff spoke up and he made it clear, you ain't gonna get no union here. Toe the line and shut your gob till the AI boys disappear your jobs.
We gravity play.
That's the Amazon way.
1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4. Do what you're told, don't ask for more. Just remember when your day is through, it all helps track.
Fly around the moon. Drop dead, we stay. That's the Amazon way. So next time you buy on the Amazon tab, it's the Betteshanger way with crafty grabs. Buy, 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 and don't ever stop it. All bow down to the God of profit.
Long hours, no pay, ripped off all day. No voice, no say.
The Amazon way. Drop down dead, well he don't care. He's a
They called some meetings, my department, and the manager just explained that we were going to get 50 pence an hour. Now at the time we were below 10 quid, so the 50 pence didn't really do anything.
We said we are not going back to work. We are not going back to work because what you guys are doing, you didn't take us like we are a worker, you take us like a modern slavery, so we are not working again.
And a friend of mine called to me a bit later on, 10, 15 minutes later, and said there's going to be another meeting in the canteen at 1 o'clock. Come into it. I was like, okay, fine. So I went in, there was no management in there. It was just literally about 500 people who walked off the floor and was sat in the canteen, and we just refused to go back to work.
Oh, the people who are in the union at this time are very few. We are not up to 5 or 6 who are in the union in the building. So then, that was how we started the journey where we are today. And everybody started saying, no, we need to send for union, we need to send for help, because what they are doing us here is horrible.
So we turned up the next morning, 8 o'clock, it was a beautiful day. I always went, it was so beautiful, I had a still t-shirt, not like that. And GMB were there, And they're like, can we start speaking to people? I was like, please, because I don't know what to do. I've got to make the building, but I don't know what to do. And it was about 20 of us in Coventry Town Centre, and then we started getting phone calls, and this area here, where we are now, there's at least 100 people, and it started stopping wagons, and I was like, I can't do this, because it's wildcat, you know, we've got to keep a bit of a low profile. And that's how it all started, and it was great.
Everybody turn around and look at Amazon, because they're watching you. Everybody raise their hands. Show the peace sign now. 2 fingers. Right. Let's switch it around, everybody. Who are we? What do we want? Why do we want it?
I was working flat out on the Amazon line, tired, wired, serving my time. All perks gone since the COVID days. We all wanna know when we're gonna get a raise. Well, my mate Salazar tells you flat. Rumours going round, the raise is crap. The boss is up above, they talking to us. Something's kicking off, and they don't wanna fuss. They sweat your labour and chop your pay. We've all had enough of the Amazon way.
So he goes to the canteen and take a break. What's going on here for heaven's sake? Chinese, Romanians, Georgians, Poles, Nepalese, English all shouting no! 15p, you can stuff your offer. Well, we make millions for the Amazon cover. Shift after shift, so we won't take that. We're staying down here, and we ain't going back.
They sweat your labour and chop your pay. We've all had enough of the Amazon way. So next day we marched down to Coventry town. There were banners and placards flying all around. We need a union, that's plain to see. So we all signed up with the GMB. 50 quid an hour, that's our demand. It's a wildcat strike, but here we stand. Every race and colour at the Amazon gate. There's power and union, and we're feeling great. They sweat your labour and chop your pay. We've all had enough of the Amazon way. So we build and build with the GMB. Got off the workforce, it's a Coventry. We're ready to go for serious action. When Amazon move in with a vile distraction, 1,000 scabs brought in overnight. Anything to break up, vote for a strike. But this team's rolling and we ain't gonna go. Bezos, you bastard, we're coming for you. They sweat your labour and chop your pay. We've all had enough of the Amazon way.
We actually told GMB on the second ballot that if we don't get this prolonged period of strike action, we ain't doing it. So we actually said we wanted at least 6 days or so involving the day and nights of strike action. And that was spectacular, because what then happened is we had night shift who would then come out, and because of the strike timings, they didn't go home, they hung around for the day shift. So if you see some of the pictures on social media, from say the early days of say 100, 200 people out there striking, it's escalated and sometimes you'd have up to 600 people.
Well, Staten Island got the ALU, building a union, turning a screw. Germany and France got organized, busted the bullshit and Bezos lies. Indian workers on 30 quid a week, they've had enough, let the union speak. All stand together, banners unfurled. We don't want much, just to organize the world.
They sweat your labour and chop your pay. We've all had enough of the Amazon way. They sweat your labour and chop your pay. We've all had enough of the Amazon way. They sweat your labour and chop your pay. We've all had enough of the Amazon way.
try and talk to them and they quickly go on from one to another is the best way. And every time we had the strike action for that 2-week window, we were getting up to 40 or 50 people recruiting from coming in. So we give them a flyer, explain what we're doing. We want everybody to have better pay, better conditions, right? We need to all stand together to get the union in, and we want to stop the way that we're being treated and other people. And it was striking a chord with a lot of people. So all the ethnic minority groups, Somalis, Eritreans, Polish, Eastern Europeans, Brazilians.
We were the first Amazon to have a union or to start striking in the country. We now have Leeds, London, Bristol, all over strike. The way to coordinate is you just have to be the first one to take a step towards something new, and you will have someone else taking the same step. And that's what's happening now. We took the first step and they're now following us. Because they did not have those kind of leaders to step up and say we want better.
So if you have to fight with a very big company like Amazon, you can't fight in your home country. You have to fight national level, European level, international level.
We're with the union not because we want to stay here forever. I will be leaving this place, someone else will be coming. I want to make sure that the next person gets a better working condition, better rules, better regulation, better safety rules, rules that would allow us to work up until we retire, rules that not at this job only, but rules that would not hurt our back, rules that would make sure that we can continue working, not one condition that will retire us by the time we're 40. Everyone that works at Amazon for more than 5 years have a back problem, knee problem, joint problem.
But we need to get workers to realise it's all about the workers being together, the union and supports in the back with resources and the technical know-how, right? Because the workers are at the coalface dealing with the problems.
I'll give Bezos one message and one message only. I would say you can fly around the moon as much as you want, but your day will come. Everyone has to have their day. You will get old. You won't be able to lift anything. You will be bedbound. Then you will realise the working condition of these people.
Come all you workers who toil night and day, by hand and by brain, you fought for your pay, for centuries long past, for no more than your bread, you bled for your country, and you counted your dead.
I just want to clap, it helps me out.
In the factories and mills and the shipyards and mines, they've always been told to keep up with the times. Their skills are not needed, they scream like a drum. Then we're jumped on the scrappy of future they lost. We're the first ones to die. that high the sky, and we're always the last when the queen is set down. Cause the worker is working when the bad cats are down. And when the sky darkens and the prospect is gone, it's given a gun and then pushed to the floor and expected to die with a land of our when we're own one handful of love. They strive to divide us by colour and creed, but only to safeguard them profit and greed through hellfire and clothing. They clap and they pray, but their pockets are empty when we ask for the rain. All of these things the worker has done, from tilling the field to carrying the gun, our voices united with fear and despise. But the future is ours when together we rise. The future is ours when together we rise.
Right, we'll do the second half later on. Back to you, Dave.
Okay, Liz French first came to Somerset in, like I said, in September 1985 with John Moyle, the president of Betteshanger, to talk about the sacked miners, not just Liz's husband, Terry French, and then came back after Terry came out of jail to help us save the Mary Stanley Hospital. A campaign, very unusual campaign, because we didn't save the Mary Stanley Maternity Hospital, but as a compromise, a very rare compromise which we achieved in Bridgwater. Children still have the right to be born in Bridgwater when towns 10 times the size of Bridgwater have lost their maternity hospital. So we are very proud that Liz and Terry played a part in that campaign to save maternity provision in Bridgwater. Anyway, warm round of applause, come all the way from Kent, Liz French. Liz.
Not that I need it, like I've just been told by my comrade down there. And last time I came to Somerset, I had a Shelton, curly hair, and a short mouth, a toothbrush and a pair of knickers in my bag. Now I'm here with a medical case, but wouldn't swap my life for anything. I was so proud to be a miner's daughter, sister and wife. And I enjoyed every minute of living in my community. And I was down here. We were fighting literally for our lives. Thatcher threw everything she had at us. And everybody says we lost. All right, we did. We didn't get the result we wanted. But do you know what? I've always been proud that we stood out for a whole year against Thatcherism and it's 40 years on now and we're still here. I have never ever quit. Alright, my life has changed. My husband got 5 years for fighting on picket lines. So my strike never ended till 3 or 4 years later. But started the Justice for Mine Workers campaign. And I have carried it on for 40 years. Because them sacked miners never got their jobs back, never got any recognition, never got their pensions. We've never had any justice for Albury. So I have just carried on in the National Women Against Pit Closures, and I do it because I'm trying to educate our children now as to the right they should
join a union and be a collective, be socialists and stand up for their rights. This country at the moment is in the shit. They support bloody Israel. They're doing everything they can to arm every bloody house with a gun. When you look at the world now, this is what I fought for back then. All right, we lost the strike, but it don't mean that we had to give up. We're still here and we're still fighting, and I will never change. I've been to universities, I have been in London, Durham, Yorkshire, everywhere for the last 40 years, and there are still people out there fighting for the right, want to have a job, want to have a decent wage, and want to just live a decent life. And I will never give up until we've got that right.
Terry Harrison, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't let this frighten you, but I have to tell you that I've got quite a few more women down in Kent that is of a similar nature. I often wonder about the National Health Service when they say about bullying and intimidation. And I'm thinking, you know, perhaps if we could collect the gene of some of the women that worked in our canteen and insert it into that situation, it would never erode in the first place. I want to talk to you about, I suppose, how I grew up and how you grew up. I was fortunate. I suppose the first memory for me, or one of the first memories, is going to the Aston Villa collecting bottles in 1937. And you can imagine from there, I saw some deprivation and I went and I got evacuated. But when I came back and I went to work in 1944, I found out something about prejudice. All the people I could hear talking about these people coming from the Cannock Chase. You'll have to watch them, what they do and what they don't do. And then I also noticed about 12 months later, all these Irishmen turned up. Oh, these bloody Irishmen, we don't want Irishmen. And then a couple of years later, all these West Indians turned up. Jesus Christ, it was apoplexy. I mean, and that's some of the experience of finding out about prejudice. But my education came after I left the Marines in 1955, and I'd seen something of the colonial battles that were taking place in the Middle East, in Malaya, and I saw the deprivation in Hong Kong and Japan when I went there in 1949, 1950 onwards. And of course then was Korea. But my main education was when I went to Betteshanger Pit and being introduced into one of the most intelligent workforces that you could ever aspire to see. These weren't ignorant, dirty miners. These were self-educated miners. David don't like me using the word facilitator. I'm a facilitator. I don't have that needed intelligence on many subjects, and I'm not well read. But when I got to Betteshanger, I met men and women that had educated themselves through the years of depression, and very intelligent men. I was fortunate to meet Billy Marshall, who was arrested during the 1926 strike and sentenced to jail in Armley, in Yorkshire, had a very strange way of speaking for a Yorkshireman. He used to talk about, I was arrested and I was incarcerated in Armley jail. And he was talking about the impact of miners when he came to Kent, watching two miners fighting. He didn't say miners, he said sinkers. They were different to miners. If there was going to be any of these kind of nasty people, but he said, he said if I was alarmed, what would the local burghers feel about it? But Billy was our first Labour councillor in Deal. And he could speak on an enormous range of projects. And most of the young Orley boys used to sit enthralled on the paddock when he was talking to them and the needs of socialism. Or our old pioneer, Arthur Evans, who was a communist in Betteshanger village, but returned to Yorkshire in 1921 strike and remained there in the 26 strike, who led the Doncaster risings against evictions. That should ring a bell now, shouldn't it? But at those times, evictions were serious business. And they had a warning system of when an eviction would take place, or when the bailiffs would turn up and take away people's furniture and the like. So these were the kind of people that I was beginning to get my education from. And Jack Dunn, and I think David, you knew, where is David? Behind me? You knew his son, Paul Dunn. But Jack Dunn was another wonderfully intelligent man. But at Betteshanger, they was also picking up the cudgels of what was happening in Spain. Some of them went to the Spanish Civil War, but I did read the Labour Party minutes where they were still concerned about the support that the survivors of the Spanish Civil War needed in 1938. And they was also then, and you got the impression reading the minutes that they was pacifists in many ways, but they was arming themselves against the rise of fascism. I knew Steve Stevenson in Deal, who was with Billy Marshall and his father, the Independent Labour Party at that time, they was fighting fascism in Deal on the picket lines with Nancy Astor, that many of you will know. I should have told you before I started speaking, I've got a Joe syndrome, Joe Biden syndrome. And I all of a sudden go a bit blank. So you'll have to spare me that. But I'll keep on going as long as I can. And so the advent of war for many in Betteshanger was not a fight for king and country. It was a fight against fascism. And many of the people told me this, the Steve Stevenson, the Conleys, that my comrades over there will know. So when war was declared, the pit emptied of all its Orley boys. It nearly brought the pit to a standstill. There was talk of, actually, getting some Welsh miners to go and help out. And those lads that went to war, again, I was fortunate to listen to their experiences. And Jack Wilkinson, If I'm looking towards your age, because I want you to give me the name that I'm seeking.
Hey, we're trying our best.
Yeah, Jack Wilkinson, for instance, told me of his survival of the Lancastria. The Lancastria was sunk in Nantes Harbour. 6,000 odd men went down on that ship. One of the largest tragedies in the war, and yet little remembered. He also told me that Arthur Wardle, remember him, Ray?
Yeah, we do.
He lived opposite you, Liz.
Yeah.
His brother Sid was on the Lancastria. Sid didn't come back. He was drowned. But Jack was in the water for some 6 hours and picked up by French fishermen. And then Bill Adamson went home from the pit and he found his wife, Evelyn Kirk, had been bombed and she was killed. During the war, one of the things that people seem to forget, that they talk about patriotism. In Betteshanger in 1941 there was a strike. There was a strike against coal owners taking advantage and trying to take away from them their minimum wage. And that was sacrosanct to miners. And again, a Welshman, Tudor Davis, a Yorkshire man, Billy Powell, and Joe McEwen, another Welshman, was sentenced to prison at Canterbury. And there was a strike, and the leaders were in jail, and Dickie Ball, a veteran of the First World War, and his family were telling me in 1940 he was still picking pieces of shrapnel out of his body on occasion. Or Jack Adams, the leader of one of the best choirs in Great Britain that we celebrate. He had been gassed during the war. And we are telling people that they're not patriotic, and these people that were summoned to court and fined, none of those fines was paid. And every time it was Ernest Bevins officials that was sent down to Kent. Dickie Ball had said, well, you know where our leaders are, go and talk to them. And so they stood firm. But the tragedy is, I must say, that the strike was successful, and for some reason or other they was let out of jail, little known by legal process, none of the fines were paid. They sailed up at the end of the strike for more than the strikers were asking in the first place, and that was the way that strike was solved. Again, I've lost track, and it's time you was back here because I want Tim to read something out to you.
Tim?
During the war, there was continual bombing, and you know what Hellfire Corner was like, and the tragedies was building up as far as Betteshanger was concerned, especially from the point of children. In 1942, two lads, Rogan and Regan, were killed at the local school in Park Street. The first Red killed in the war was Sam Coase, one of the bath attendants at Betteshanger. Dave Dick, a Royal Marine bandsman, had been killed. And in 1942, Shirley Nichols returned home from evacuation in Wales, and she thought they should have a day out in Deal. So she went and got her friend Gladys Hughes, whose father was a petty officer, and Ray Giles had just set out to go and work at Gordon Blaine's in Deal. He was 14. And there was another girl that her name just escapes me, which is unforgivable. But they all was in Deal that day in October 1942, and they was all killed. Ted Dunn returned from a night shift in the pit, and his two daughters, they was both under the age of 3, and his wife had been killed in the shelter in Deal. And this was the price that was being paid by a workforce that was being turned as unpatriotic, and that was the most hurtful. I spoke to Len Price, who was on the burial detail of the Kwai Bridge and the Kwai River. Some of it is recorded in the book, but two of my friends were Ronnie and Frank Jarrett. And I just liked you because Frank wrote up a couple of 3 things for me. One was this piece I'm going to ask Tim to read to you. And 2, he finished up in 41 Royal Marine Commando Brigade as a few years later in Korea. But I'd like you to read this extract when I interviewed Ronnie Jarrett. This is 2 boys in Deal in 39-45. Good.
Okay, Frank Jarrett, an older brother of Ronnie, recalled a terrible day. Can you hear me right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sunday, September the 3rd, 1944, was a hot sunny day. After having dinner at about 2 p.m, my 2 younger brothers, Ernie, Ron and I, all caught an East Kent bus near Betteshanger Colliery, the village there, to go to Deal and have a picnic on the beach. Part of the beach had been cleared of mines and barbed wire. Also on the bus was our older sister and one of her friends. When the bus got near to Deal Hospital, it stopped and wouldn't go any further because we were told there was a shell warning. Clippy, I'll get emotional here. The Clippy, I'm sure her name was Kathy Kirk, advised us not to go any further. Unfortunately, my brothers and I walked the rest of the way into town. I don't know where my sister went, but she wasn't with us. I was desperate for the toilet, so we went to the toilets located in South Street. While I was in there, the shells started dropping and the noise was tremendous. So we dashed to the bottom of South Street, where close to Lloyd's Bank there was a brick surface air raid shelter. We got inside the shelter, but the shells exploded and glass fell from the top of the windows of the bank, from the bank building. After a short while, I said to Ernie and Ron, we'll wait for one more to drop, then we'll make a dash out of town. As we went over the railway bridge, I said, we'll be all right now. No shells ever land the other side of the railway bridge. But as we got past Croke School at the bottom of Park Lane, now Beechwood Avenue, a shell landed on a property called Fairlight in Park Lane. There was a brick surface shelter on the island opposite the front of what is now Deal Fire Station. As we got level with the entrance to the shelter, the shell exploded. And before we got inside, we got struck by rubber and shrapnel. It's all right, I'll get it. After getting inside the shelter, the dust cleared and we could see again. We could see then that the top of Ron's foot had been sliced off, leaving bits of broken bones sticking out, and he was standing in a pool of blood. Within minutes, the police from the nearby police station came in and carried Ron, who was 9 years old at the time, to the station for first aid. Soon after this happened, Mr. Old and one of his drivers from Old's garage in West Street came by. The police stopped them and got them to take us to Deal Hospital, where Ron had his foot amputated by Dr. Davies. I was found to have a broken shoulder blade caused by a piece of the shell, and only managed to survive without a scratch. Ron's shoe was later found and returned, and our mum kept it for many years. Ronnie remembered only positive things about his time in hospital. There were many servicemen also at the hospital with their arms and legs missing, but they still used to give Ronnie rewards for making progress walking on his crutches. A year or so later, Arthur Evans, the old pioneer, started making a fuss with the authorities about getting Ronnie an artificial leg, which he received about a year later. The difficulty comprehending that any of these terrible stories could have taken place and that people could suffer such pain and anguish with so much humour and resilience will always remain an enigma to me.
I appreciate, Tim, the emotion that was there, and that's why I wanted people to be aware of these kind of stories that can be told right throughout the kingdom. I'm aware of that, but I'm particularly concerned with Betteshanger. And of course the end of the war, jubilation, what had taken place during the war though. I mean, I was fortunate again to meet the Red Banner Group. There. Is any Red Banner Group in Banner Group Theatre?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, Banner Group Theatre. Well, I was fortunate in the 74 period to meet with Charles Parker and Philip Donald. They were two BBC producers that produced The Big Yaw. And they did a series of radio ballads with Ewan McCall. And again, it was a lesson for learning because you wouldn't have had Ray or Tim the static furniture in the canteen if it wasn't for Charles Parker pointing out to me that our canteens were very noisy. And I remember that when it became to the rebuilding of the canteen. But again, the most important one was the film that we made with too much reality. There was a film by Sarah Boston with Jolly Sybans. Do anybody know of Jolly Sybans? The documentaries. We was fortunate to have Joris with us for a month, and he took us into the filmmaking and documentaries they made throughout Europe in the late 30s and onwards. Filming in Vietnam, and before that filming in Grenji in 1937, I believe. So it was all a learning process. And of course, with the finish of the war was the jubilation of winning. But for these veterans, these men and women, what I also want to convey was what they really accomplished, that we became the recipients of. These great estates, council estates, thousands of social housing, that when you got married, as I got married in 1955, I put down for a council house, I put down for a pit house, I put down for a trust house. I didn't give it another thought. I knew I'd get an house in a couple of years. And I also knew that although my wages would not be too good, only about 10% of it would be taken up with rents, energy, gas and electricity. The most costly expense for your mum and dad was your wedding wraps. And the other thing was furniture, all white goods. White goods you couldn't afford anyhow. But it astonishes me now that comparing my lot with the present day, where they're spending up to 46% of their income on housing. And all of those vast housing estates that those pioneers built for us, even temporary ones. I forgot it again. What was the bungalows called? Prefabs. I tell you, it's this short-term thing. I get over it as I get older. Yeah. But what amazes me, they were doing it at the time they was bankrupt. We had to have the Marshall Plan to carry us through this period. And yet these people sacrificed so much of their present day comfort to invest in what they term their future. And I suppose it's ironic that how many years later, with the advent of Thatcher, that the investment stopped. And we all kind of divvied up the riches. We bought the houses, and the industry was given away. And now, when I compare life, family life, where you would sit down and be trying to puzzle out, oh, I wonder how long your wedding coming up, need to get a suit. How long is it going to take me, to save up for a suit or of a similar thing? As compared to what is happening now with our children. At that time, a woman would go out to work, although she worked in the war, she was quite anxious to get back home and become an housewife. An housewife and a mother was a proud profession then. In the 70s, though, we noticed that women started going back to work to supplement the wages, to give a bit of luxury to it. There's no such choice for a young couple.
Terry, much as I hate to interrupt you, we need to get Banner Theatre back on, so could you have another 5?
Oh, it's not the first time.
You've been there all night with
I know. I will finish with this thing. That the great strikes of 72 and 74 was incredible for the miners. The 84-85 strike, you say we lost. Well, perhaps we lost that one, but we really won the war in many ways.
Yes!
In that, we showed what could be done. And if workers just follow the advice that's given on our banner, I'm pretty sure that the lessons can be learned. And we do have an opportunity of turning this period that we're going to, that we can. If we just keep our unity and our purpose, I think we can turn the corner. But in the meantime, I would like to say to you people in Bridgwater, that you are so far away from us, and yet you gave us the support you did. That was the most appreciated thing for the miners and the families. So thank you very much for listening to me, even though I have been rabbiting on quite a lot.
Yeah, Charles Parker was founder member of Banner, and he did go down to Snowdon and Betteshanger. So did we. We did. The first show we did was a dramatisation of The Big Hewer. We called it Collier. Sorry?
I remember you in Kent.
Do you? Oh, great. I was a lot younger then.
Somebody said you still have me a drink.
Yeah. So, we're now going to do our final performance, which should be our opening performance. And it's based on the fact that Banner was full-time working with the miners right away through the strike. It was mainly Yorkshire, as I said, and South Wales, because that was nearer to us. So this is a kind of tribute to the amazing strike of 1984 and to amazing political history and courage of the mining communities. And in our opinion, that was why Thatcher and the ruling elite of this country had to take on the miners big style. And this is our story for the second half. Hope you enjoy it.
I want to see a socialist society in Britain. I want to see a new type of system where people own and control the means of production, distribution and exchange.
Fly, pickets fly, fly, fly. If Thatcher won in the eye, we'll win through just like in 72. So fly, pickets fly, fly, fly.
We will do everything in our power to stop the closure of our pits, the butchering of our industry, and the sacking of our members.
Guy Fawkes had the right idea, don't stick him on your father's yet, oh dingo day. Parliamentarians die, put Thatcher up the top, stick McGregor halfway down and burn the bleeding lot.
You've only got to do one thing to win this battle. To remain united and determined. And if you do that, you'll be able to say to yourselves, with pride in your eyes, that in 1984 I stood alongside my trade union and in doing so was able to be part and parcel of the greatest victory in trade union history.
Oh, I'd rather be a picket than a scout. Oh, I'd rather be a picket than a scout. Go on then. I'd rather be a picket, rather be a picket, rather be a picket than a scout.
We were at the bottom of the wages league. We had miners' wives talking about, I like to be able to buy a few luxuries like fresh fruit and oranges. That was in 1972. You know, we had out. And when we went on strike, we discovered that really lots and lots and lots of industries still were based on coal. And once we pulled the plug, it taught us a lesson that we did have bargaining power, we had clout.
In 1972, the miners' Britain went out on strike. They demand a 35% pay increase. In the middle of Birmingham, just outside the Saltley Coke Depot, there was an enormous mountain of coking coal. Lorries were coming down the A38, loading up with coke and undermining the strike. A certain unknown man at the time, called Arthur Scarborough, came down from Woolley Colliery in South Yorkshire and went round the trade union movement at Birmingham. And he said, we don't want pound note consciences, we need people on that picket line to close down that coke depot. The rest is history. We take you now to a picket line outside Saltley Coke Depot one very cold February morning in 1972.
Everybody was waiting. It got to about 9 o'clock and I thought, God, they get into work at 7:30, call a meeting immediately for 8 o'clock. Tractors and transmissions is 25 minutes walk away, so half 8 they should be down there. Half 8, they ain't down there. 8:45 they ain't down there. It's 9 o'clock, they still ain't down there and I've got a splitting headache. So I take a walk down to the traffic lights.
There was a growing feeling of apprehension amongst the police, and instantly we recognised that there was something wrong, there was something different. There was no traffic moving.
Something was coming up.
I've never seen out like it in my life.
Wave after wave of them coming over the hill.
It's a thing I'll never forget. I'll never forget it as long as I live. There were grown men down there with tears in their eyes crying.
It were as if they'd all just come to their senses.
It made you go cold when you went down to Saltley and you saw that vast crowd in the way that every bit of traffic around Saltley was completely blocked. Nothing could move, buses none, nothing. It was just one solid mass of working people.
I was really proud that day. Really proud of the unity of Birmingham. Because the miners, they did us a service that day. For they united the whole trade union movement of Birmingham.
I got to the corner and I looked up the Washwood Heath Road. There they come,
8, 9 abreast. Harper, you know, up the front, barrel chested. They got this big banner. The miners' struggle is our struggle. That's why they've been so long, they've all been making this banner. I thought, I'm an unemployed engineer. I'm going in with this lot. The Rover workers came. Close the gates, close the gates. From Fisher's just the same. Close the gates. The world promised you, the Morris workers too. To stop the gate they drew. Close the gates, close the gates. To stop the gate they drew. Close the gates. Chorus. Down Bromford the lane we came. Close the gates, close the gates. We marched along Dews Lane. Close the gates. Down Tyburn Road, with heads held high we strode. Our banners filled the road. Close the gates, close the gates. Our banners filled the road. Close the gates. A solid wall are we. Close the gates, close the gates. Our strength is unity. Close the gates. We've marched across the years through hunger, doubt and fear. We are the engineers. Close the gates, close the gates. We are the engineers. Close the gates. You men are hiring now. Close the gates, close the gates. You servants of the crown. Close the gates. No power in the land can gain the upper hand. When we united stand, close the gates, close the gates. When we united stand, close the gates. A solid wall are we. Close the gates, close the gates. Our strength is unity. Close the gates. No power in the land can gain the upper hand. United stand, close the gates, close the gates. When we united stand, close the gates, close the gates, close the gates.
So you never forgot what the mine workers did to them in 72 and 74. They propped down an elected government.
If they defeated the National Union Mine Workers, they defeated organised labour.
But we're also at the time when there was this new right ideology that started picking up.
The Ridley plan was well conceived.
Nicholas Ridley was a government ally minister.
They thought that they covered all corners. They've got the issue of making sure that coal was still being produced by encouraging, for example, the Knox Coalfield to continue working and scabbing. They've got the issue of scab lorry drivers organised. They've got the police transformed from a local police force into almost a paramilitary style.
Low taxation, a rolling back of the state, an attack on work, organised labour, and a crippling of public services.
It had all the hallmarks of a politically motivated strike.
Ridley, Thatcher, it was all done by design.
I got the motivation to destroy the National Union Mine Workers to pave way for the mass privatisation programme that would have followed it.
So we lie in the belly of the mighty beast and hear the groans of the earth beneath and wonder why, as we lie inside, why the beast still lives and the pit must die. The beast still lives, but the pit must die.
The Ridley plan was to have things in place to beat the miners, transport systems, communication systems and what have you, to enable sort of strike breakers and move coal around the country to the various power stations so that they wouldn't have power cuts.
And we know that the beast is cruel and mean, as it trawls the deep for the fossil sea. Growing fat while miners toil, hewing the face where the black rocks boil. Hewing the face where the black rocks boil.
Is Mr. Scargill correct when he says that Mr. McGregor wants to cut the coal industry down to 100 bits and 100,000 men?
Mr. McGregor and the government want a good, prosperous coal industry. A good, prosperous coal industry.
And her Energy Secretary, who later became Chancellor of the Exchequer, Nigel Lawson, described the preparations for the strike as like rearming to fight Adolf Hitler in the 1930s.
And the beast it hunts with a hungry pain, as it scours the globe for the highest gain. When the market's good, colliers reap, but they're cast aside when the coal is cheap. They're cast aside when the coal is cheap.
And I could see then that she thought, if I smash these miners, I'm going to do what I want. I can just ride roughshod over anybody.
To me, it was revolution. They were coming at us, it was an head-on fight.
So we lie in the belly of the mighty beast, and hear the groans of the earth beneath. But there'll be no peace on the great seabed. There'll be no peace till the beast is dead. There'll be no peace till the beast is dead.
Yorkshire's 56,000 miners have been called out on strike from Monday, and as the threat of confrontation grows in the industry, the union has challenged the
We had no choice other than to go on strike over cottonwood. It's to do with a group of people that had proved from 1980 onwards that they were going to stand up and fight against the Tory government.
I can remember my husband coming home and saying that the South Wales miners had been down on the picket line, and I said, well, you know, typical woman attitude, have they fed, have they washed, do they want somewhere to stay? So he went back down the picket line, and I had 6 South Wales miners sleeping, washing, bathing and eating in the house, so it really all started from there.
All this was about, I mean, people forget it wasn't about big wages and stuff like that. It was about keeping colonies open, about keeping people in work.
It was in the year of 84, shit really hit the fan, when Mac the Knife McGregor, manufacturers at Chipman, said another 30 pits I'll have to close to meet the plan, and we'll dump another 30,000 miners. Daddy, were you the first of the first? Did you tell the MCP to do its worst? Or did you show a lily liver, sell the union down the river, and scalp a black leg one forever curse?
Bear in mind, I'd only been in the pit 6 months. It really told that I got 12 months off. I think it's a pretty bad job, you know, 6 months on, 12 months off.
Now when Arthur Scarborough heard the news, he cried, this Yankee slob is a gift from Cowboy Reagan. here to steal our jobs. Do a nice job of the unions for this crummy Thatcher mob, and we'll show them what it means to be a miner. Daddy, were you on the picket line? Did you fight to save the future of the mine? Or did you take the wrong direction? Did you squeal for police protection? Did you let them see you're in your rubber spine?
The Yorkshire lads are down at the bottom of the lane picketed. And they want support. I said, no problem. So I just upped, went into the change room, got changed into the everyday clothes and went to join them on the picket line.
Well, the Yorkshire lads come out from strike and said it's evident the only way to stop McGregor and the government is to bring the lads out everywhere from Scotland down to Kent, and we'll show them what it means to be a miner. Daddy, what did you do in the strike? Did you stand there with your mates and wage the fight? Or did you show a yellow belly, spill your guts out on the telly? Did you let the bosses fill you full of shite? Well, some didn't heed the strike call for guts and brains. They like shouting freedom and democracy. To work they scudded back. Now the noses are all brown with being up the rear and back. They're just a bunch of dirty blackleg miners. Daddy, did you march out the head? Did you stand there on the picket line and thread? Or did you tell your mates to get a fortnight on the Costa Brava? Did you take a 2-week holiday instead? Well, the battle it was joined, alas, the horses they were massed. On their side the press the telly, all the weapons of their class. Was McGregor and his black legs, but we'll never pass. Cause the NUM's the weapon of the miner. Daddy, what did you do in the strike? Did you scalp and let your workmates wage a fine? Or how the neighbours stood and booed and said we had to sink the Judas? Daddy, what did you do in the strike?
We are here, we are strong, we are fighting for our lives, side by side.
The women in my own village and Bedolf, how they just organised from day one of the strike, how they set up, you know, the food kitchens, the soup kitchens, the organisation, just to keep everybody fed. And that isn't just what women are about. They're bloody good organisers, you know.
I think the miners needed the wives behind them, or the girlfriends or whatever. I think they were very important to the strike.
And I met Brenda, and I met Bridget, and I met Debbie, Maureen. I knew that this was the start of something that really good for us.
The word went around and it was amazing. The first meeting that was ever calling all miners' wives and supporters together, it filled and all. That's how big it was and how many people were interested.
I didn't know Brenda at the time, but I'd heard loads about it. She was off on rallies here, there and everywhere. She was picketing. She was going down to Birmingham to meet with the Birmingham support.
The atmosphere in the hall, in the Civic Hall in Barnsley, was brilliant. We're walking into the hall and the police are there. You can't take banners in, you can't take this in. Women saying, we can't walk, get out of the way. I'll tell you something, we could have took anybody on that day when we come out of there. We were going to fight and we were going to win and we were going to show Thatcher women are as good as she was.
Women on the line,
They are not for moving.
women on the line,
They are standing strong.
women on the line,
Till hell it freezes over.
the women are standing on the line.
During the strike,
I'd always been told that I was stupid and, you know, I couldn't do anything and what have you. And we used to go to speak at universities, and the first few times I felt like I was entering on holy ground, do you know what I mean? It was university, oh dear me. And then I realised, you know, I don't think that these students don't even know.
Women on the line, it's not for making money. Women on the line, it's not for making names. Women on the line, they're making our tomorrows. The women are standing on the line.
Oh, Lorna, who was my Uncle Harry's daughter, she was at the Poly at Stoke. And she come over, I think it was just before Christmas. She said, there's a do one for like miners' wives at Stoke, do you want to come? I said, oh God, no. I said, when is it? She said, Saturday morning. And I thought, well, I'm going to bloody go. I'm going to go.
Women on the line, the pressing late for silence. Women on the line, the one who really stands. Women on the line, the shipyard claims are idle. That's why we're standing on the line.
I had a green skirt on me and a skirt because I was slim, and a pair of bloody stilettos. All in fashion now. Got my coat and off I went on the bus. Gets up there, didn't know it was all seen all worn. Well, it was all ears wearing traps down, bloody dungarees and pegging boots, and I like to wear rough limited here.
Women on the line, from Grindle and from Hampton. Women on the line, I'm Thorpe Markham. Women on the line, from Templeville and Trenton. The women are standing on the line.
I said, excuse me, do you Brenda Proctor? Oh my Dave, wait till saying to your husband. And she goes, oh, she says, well, have you been out and about? I says, no, just tell the baby. Well, Brenda goes all gooey when you mention baby. She goes, oh, Duck, she's had a strike, baby. And she went, Dory. I said, Dory, come here. So that was it. Duck, I thought, oh, maybe. And she introduced me to Bridget. I thought, oh, flipping heck, Bridge. And, like, you know, one of them families, as I thought at the time. White women's lab, oh, flipping out my mother's woman out here.
Women on the line, women on the line, from Bamsel's picking line, women on the line, like tigers from the forest, the women are standing on the line.
She goes, what are you doing on Saturday? I goes, oh, I don't know. No, it was a Sunday. Wow, what do you want, Doc? I was all the night. I could look, kids, Dave, what can I do? She goes, we've got a meeting in bed with. I says, where's that? She says, on the other side of Birmingham. I says, what for? She says, it's a miners' meeting, a miners' wives meeting. Do you want to come? I goes, well, I don't know about that. Oh, I don't know, Doc. She goes, well, why? I says, well, I've got 3 kids. She goes, well, your husband's on strike, isn't he? He goes, yeah. He goes, what can't he have the kids? Goes, I don't know. I suppose he can, can't he? He goes, does he go out picking? I goes, oh yeah, all the time, dead proud of him, like, you know. She goes, well, who has the kids when he's out picking? I goes, well, me. He goes, well, he can have the kids while you go to the meeting. I goes, flipping heck, what a good idea, right, come in. So, next Sunday, Doc, who have I got outside my house waiting for me? Bridget in the car. My mum and dad were a bit dubious, I tell you.
Women on the line, can you feel the planet quaking? Women on the line, can you hear the oceans grow? Women on the line, can you see the storm clouds breaking? The women are standing on the line. The women are standing on the line. The women are standing on the line.
Then Clark was a rich businessman who was an ideologue, and he was an extreme right-wing Thatcherite, who was very close to Thatcher personally, and worked as a kind of behind-the-scenes, unofficial organiser, both with MI5, with Ian McGregor at the Coltwood, and Thatcher in government, to do some of the things that it was difficult for the government to do directly. First of all, pay for the organisation of strike-breaking organisations in mining communities, particularly in Nottinghamshire, but not only Nottinghamshire, and to help organise what later became the breakaway, the kind of embryo of what became the breakaway UDM union. And he also channeled funds in and organised the legal actions that led to sequestration and receivership, which were devastating for the NUM during and after the strike.
It still seemed at first quite, I don't know, maybe a carnival atmosphere, if you like. But as day wore on, you gradually realised that it was getting more and more sinister. You saw horses appear. You saw them start to get riot shields out and get ready, almost as though they were organising and preparing for like some big battle. And as morning wore on, we ended up faced with basically a row of riot shields, and they were banging on like Zulu warriors, like that film Zulu, and the boom, banging on it as though they were sort of getting pumped and psyched up.
We went down to Aubrey one fine sunny day to stop the coach and tractors from getting through. We told those black-leg drivers, don't cross this picket line. If we lose chum, the next in line is you. The cops had set up roadblocks to all the scabby pits. None of the flying pickets could get through. Was it just an accident? The Aubrey roads were clear. No hassle that day from the boys in Crewe. With military precision marched the guardians of the law, lined up in serried ranks across that field. 5,000 tooled up combat cops were raring for a fight, and the sunlight glistened on their riot shield. We went down to Aubrey, I'm telling you my friend, from Yorkshire on the Kent and from the Clyde. We did not go for glory, we did not go for gain, we were collier lads fighting for our lives.
The big chief gave the orders, and the lines they opened up. The riot cops on horseback came in view. They thundered down towards us, swinging truncheons in the air into our ranks. Thatcher's army flew. They beat us with their truncheons, they beat us to the ground. Flesh and bone against their armoured might. Terror was tactic. On that Aubrey field they meant to smash the miners' will to fight. Riotous assembly, that was their bogus charge, knocking up that 20 years in army jail. They forged incompet statements and fabricated lies, police corruption on a massive scale. We went down to Aubrey, I'm telling you my friend, from Yorkshire on the Kent and from the Clyde. We did not go for glory, we did not go for gain, we were collier lads fighting for our lives.
I could overlook it down and it was just like a medieval battle. But coppers were just running amok. Horses were just riding people down. They've got like long sticks out. Ones with short shields and helmets and stuff. They were leading charge. It wasn't just about carnage.
But the thing that stands out in my mind that I see over and over again is the fact that there were a bloke, up in my age now, I'm 50, and he was stood stock still in the middle of the field, and he got his hands on top of his head like that, and you can tell that he's sort of hoping that if I stand still, nobody will hit me. And as he's standing like that, sort of hunched over, I could see as I ran past that he'd physically pissed his son. He'd pissed his son with fear. And that's something you come to expect if you were on beaches at Dunkirk or whatever. That's not a bloke fighting for his job.
There's blood upon their truncheons, and there's blood on their riot shields.
There's blood on the hands of Thatcher's thugs and spies.
And there's blood on the hands of the media hacks who said we were to blame.
As they fixed the TV footage and spun their lies.
But what Orgreave also did as well, he opened the floodgates in many ways for more draconian, brutal policing at your local pits.
At Orgreave, it was there for the world to see. It was televised on us. You know, you could see the brutality that were meted out. You couldn't see the brutality that were meted out inside mine. It was concealed. But it happened.
The battle fought at Orgreave must never be forgot. The war against the poor won't go away. Now it's 0-hour contracts and anti-union laws. The spectre of the past haunts today. We went down to Orgreave, I'm telling you my friend, from Yorkshire on the Kent and from the Clyde. We did not go for glory, we did not go for gain. We were collier lads just fighting for our lives. We were collier lads fighting for our lives.
When the police charged the pickets on horseback, that charge was shown on TV on the night of the 18th of June on the BBC News as a response to miners throwing missiles and rocks at the police. Whereas in fact, the reality, as later came out in the subsequent riot trial, which collapsed, it was the police's own video showed that it was exactly the opposite. The police charge took place first, and the miners started throwing things to defend themselves.
Well, the media was shocking. It was as shocking now as it is today. It's probably worse today than it was then.
And I went home that night. Trainer was looking rough and ready, shirt ripped. I walked it out, and my mum said to me, "What on earth have you been doing?" And she says, "We've been watching you on news all day, throwing bricks and whatever." And I had to explain, and that's when it all came out that news footage had been shown in reverse.
The media was always against us, really, because at the end of the day, the media is just the Tory press, isn't it?
If you think Rupert Murdoch is an old shit bag, then smile, smile, smile.
A lot of smiles.
Oh, Calvin McKenzie. I feel him and roll him in salt. What a mother. Just a godless human being.
If you think that the sun is just a filthy rag, smile, boys, that's the style.
Are you thinking that's barefaced like? What are they telling lies for?
What's the use of buying it? It never was worthwhile. So, if you think Rupert Murdoch is an old shit bag, then smile, smile, smile.
think they'd had to protect you. That was the naivety of us at the time. But when you look back, and you look at Grunwick, and you look at Huntley Gates, and you look at Blair Peach, what happened with them and all the protesters, you know, they've always been an arm of the state.
I mean, all, you know, the things that we live with today, the zero-hours contracts, the food banks, the underemployment, the bogus self-employment, the huge level of inequality that has emerged in the last generation, all that was made possible by breaking the most significant obstacle to that kind of economy and society, which was the power of organised labour and the trade union movement.
The courts, the magistrates, the press, social security, the whole lot. The whole majesty of state was turned against us. The bottom line, when they finished with the miners and the miners' strike, it had cost them more than the war in the Falklands.
Don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. Don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head.
We also been told that the British troops in Ireland were just holding together these two mad groups of Irish people, you know, the mad Republicans on one side and the mad loyalists on the other, and they were there only doing their job. Utter shite, you know. The policeman wasn't indifferent, he was partisan. He was there to take people to work, to help to break the strike. There was no law in Britain that said 20,000 cops had to conduct two scamps through a picket line and take them to work.
It was 1985 down in West Belfast and people are marching for a future and a past. 800 years of British control, death, torture, prison and all. The sun shines bright down at Dunville Park as people raise a banner for the Sinn Féin march. You see, form an iron ring, between the ripples of the crowd as the people sing. Children scream, death flies in the air, plastic bullets into soft fleshed air. A British occupation leaves another man dead. The rebel flame burns deep, deep red.
Don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. Don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head.
You know, all the communities has had that. Well, before the miners had, the black community had had it. You know, and it just opens your eyes when you know how the police work.
It was 1985 down at Villa Cross. The police once again are trying to show who's boss. But the kids in Antwerp climbed straw. They came on the street. They said this is war. Asians, blacks, a few young whites. They didn't need a lesson on the way to fight. We'll take no more of your racist crap. They said, watch out, we're gonna fight back. One law for us, another law for them, and they said no more, and we're gonna take the blame. And then they took on the cops, took on the state. They took what they needed, the need was great.
Don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. Don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head.
And the fire is burning from Ukraine to Iraq. We see through the knives, time to fight back. Fire is burning in Palestine, from the river to the sea, no borderline. The fire is burning wherever there's a strike. Workers in struggle keep the flame alive. You can't break resistance with guns and tanks when more and more people swell up the ranks. You can't break resistance by locking us in jail. More and more people see the struggle won't fail. Fire is burning, burning strong. People on the line ask, which side are you on?
'Cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. Don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the
On the day the miners went back to work, their heads held high behind their banners and their bands.
It's my proudest achievement. I thought, for 12 months, we stood firm against just an incredible onslaught. And like I said, one of the proudest achievements in my life. I put it in front of my degree. Remember me, my lads, you were hardcore, you were hardcore working class.
Best in terms of seeing communities rally together, supporting each other. And best in seeing that there's the opportunity to create a better world when people mobilise together and have a clear cause. And kind of what I took out of the strike was that the potential that ordinary people had. We didn't win the strike. We could have won the strike, and we very nearly did win the strike. But the potential still remains, albeit maybe in a different kind of form of struggle.
So when we supposed to be coming back on people around and between our bloody need, I went to London because I promised to go on a march up in Islington, and I think it was 3 buses with me and 2 buses went to Liverpool.
You'd only been back 3 days while you went back on a strike. How about that? Are you your own strike? The manager accused the lad, the electrician, cutting the cable, sabotage, but he hadn't. You know, I mean, I know the lad. We had one we did, right? All out, gone, right? It was brilliant.
And always remember the year of the strike, the 5th day of March 85. They can say that we lost, they can say what they like, but we had the time of our lives.
We've no regrets, we've no regrets. The flame continues to burn. We won't forget. United we will return.
Regrets? I would say, when you fight the fight, that's the right thing to do. Not at all.
We all stood together, women and men, to stop them from closing down mine. We had our time over, we'd do it again, but we'd have the bastards next time. We've no regrets, the flame continues to burn. We won't forget, united we will return.
We were fighting for his jobs, his communities, his family and his kids and the future. So how long's that?
The TUC leaders with fear in their eyes said support would be second to none. You could drown in their tears, suffocated their sighs. In the end all they did was to run.
We've no regrets, the flame continues to burn. We won't forget, united we will return.
In a way they did me a favour because they made me more determined. And I thought, somebody's got to stand up. And I'm going to be one of them that stands up now and be captured.
We marched through the streets till we lifted our feet. We withstood the full force of the law. The miners united, they'll never deny.
no regrets, we've no regrets. The flame continues to burn. We won't forget, we won't forget. United we will return.
I think there'll always be that grassroots working class fighting down there, and I think it'll always still be there with us.
With the truncheons and horses, they opened our eyes. We're proud that we fought picket lines. Comrades in struggle, but comrades for life. And we will be ready next time. We've no regrets, we've no regrets. The flame continues to burn. We won't forget, we won't forget. United we will return. We will rise again. We will rise again. We will rise again. It's time to celebrate our great democracy. Every 5 years we all get to choose. Some go for pink, others go for blue. Whatever shade you go for, please don't get upset when everything they promise you, you never ever get. No matter who you vote for, your ballot's in the bin. 'Cause when the dust dies down, the government get in. Government gets in. Remember when Cameron and Clegg spun the line? We're all in this together. What a surprise. Tax cuts for the rich, 9 grand student fees, welfare slashed and a wages freeze. And how's it democratic to never even ask us as they sell the NHS off to private contractors? No matter who you vote for, the outlook could be grim. 'Cause when the dust dies down, the government's in. Well, they meddle with our minds and call it consultation. Focus groups, mass manipulation, another bloody war, another call to action with their weapons of destruction and weapons of distraction. I thought democracy meant they listen to us. Are they servants of the people? Discuss. No matter who you vote for, it's all a media spin. That's when the dust dies down. Well, if you're in the Labour Party, whose member gets to choose will be the next leader to see the struggle through? Well, they all vote for Jeremy. Oh my, what a sin. Because those who run the country didn't want to have him in. The guardians of the party said, you know what's best for you all? In the interest of democracy, we're going to have a coup. No matter if you vote for them, think you're gonna win. That's when the dust dies down. The government gets in. Well, then we had Sunak on the online to kiss the arse ruling class, Jesus Christ. Then we had Starmer to take us for a ride. A pair of US poodle dogs condoning genocide. You can vote, you can lobby, smoke, sure it's all a Mickey fit, cause when the dust flies down, the government is in. So come on, you lovely people, wherever you may be, it's time to take the mock out of democracy. The great ship of state, you'll never turn around. The first mate's a villain, the captain's a clown. You can slave all you love to keep the privateers afloat, or be a mutineer and occupy the boat. So join the rebel crew if you really want to win. Fight back, strike back, go on the attack.
So the government can't get in.
Could Tim Hughes and Liz French come to the stage, please? Tim Hughes, Betteshanger, minor veteran, and Liz wants to join him in a few songs. Okay.
I might be getting old, darling, but I'm still here.
He's trying to practice too much.
I went from starting the show. Can you hear me now? But it started at 7 o'clock, 7:15. Suddenly now I'm headlining. You have to put up with me. First song I'm going to sing, well, is for a good friend of mine, Terry, that you heard talk later on. It's called A Miner's Line. A miner's life is like a sailor's for a ship to cross the waves. Every day his life's in danger, still he ventures being brave. Watch the rocks there falling daily, careless miners always fail. So keep your hands upon your wages and your eyes upon the scale. Union miners stand together, do not heed the others tell. Keep your hands upon your wages and your eyes upon the scale. You've been docked and docked again, boy. You've been loading 2 for 1. What have you to show for working since its mining has begun? Just worn out boots, a worn out miners, lumps of stone and children fail. So keep your hands upon your wages and your eyes upon the scale. Union miners stand together, do not heed the owner's tale. Keep your hands upon your wages and your eyes upon the scale. In conclusion, bear in memory, keep this password in your mind. We'll provide for every worker when in union they combine. Stand like men and link together, the union miners will prevail. So keep your hands upon your wages and your eyes upon the scale. Union miners stand together, do not heed the owner's tale. Keep your hands upon your wages and your eyes upon the scale. Union miners, stand together, do not heed the owner's tale. Keep your hands upon your wages and your eyes upon the scale. Union miners, stand together, do not heed the owner's tale. Keep your hands upon your wages and your eyes upon the scale.
I am definitely not a singer. It's just because I know all the women's songs. I've got a voice like a fog, so if you want to leave, you better go now. We are women, we are strong, we are fighting for our lives, side by side with our men, who work the nation's minds, united by the struggle, united by the path, and it's here we go, for the women of the working class. We don't need government's approval for anything we do, don't need their permission to have a point of view, don't need anyone to tell us what to think or say. We've got strength in our fan, wisdom of our own, to go our own way. We are women, we are strong, we are fighting for our lives, side by side with our men, who work the nation's minds, united by a struggle, united by the past, and it's here we go, for the women of the working class. They talk about statistics, about the price of coal, the cost in our community is dying on the dole. When fighting for our freedom, we found ways to organise, where women's liberation failed to move, our strike has mobilised. We are women, we are strong, we are fighting for our lives, side by side with our men, who work the nation's minds, united by a struggle, united by the past, and it's here we go, we are the women of the working class. Ours is a unity which threats could never breach, ours an education which books and schools could never teach. We face the taunts and the violence of Thatcher's thugs in blue, but when you're fighting for survival, you've got nothing left to lose. We are women, we are strong, we are fighting for our lives, side by side with our men, who work the nation's minds, united by the struggle, united by the past, and it's here we go, we are the women of the working class.
So we sing this one. It's one I grew up hearing, and it's one I really like. So if you probably know it, so you can sing along to it. People say a man is made out of mud, a poor man's made out of muscle and blood. Muscle of blood and skin and bone, and a mind that's weak and a back that's strong. You're those 60 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. I was born one morning when the sun didn't shine. I picked up my shovel and I walked to the mine. I loaded 16 tons of number 9 coal, and the straw boss said, well, bless my soul, you load 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Get that right in a minute. I was born one morning in the drizzling rain, fighting and trouble on my middle name. I was raised on the canebrake by an old mama line. Ain't a hot old woman make me walk that line. You load 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. I'll forget that. If you see me coming, better step aside. A lot of men did and a lot of men died, with a fist of iron and another of steel. If the right one don't get you, then the left one will. Load 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store.
Hardly money that you can eat. Because I've watched this film and I have been so emotional. 40 years and we're still here, and I'm still gutted that the picture's shut and my community is gone. But this one song sticks in my heart, and it's called Cold Knock Dog. It was written by a Kent miner's wife from Elsham, and I am so proud, not that I can sing, but I will do my best. Cold Knock Dog. From the art. It stands so proud, the wheel so still, a ghost-like figure on the hill. It seems so strange, there is no sound. Now there are no men underground. What will become of this pit yard, where men once trampled faces hard, so tired and weary their shift's done, never having seen the sun? Will it become a sacred ground, foreign tourists gazing round, asking if men once worked here, way beneath this pit headgear? Empty trucks once filled with coal, lying lined up like men on the dole. Will they be ever used again, or left for scrap just like the men? There'll always be a happy hour for those with money, jobs and power. They'll never realise the hurt they've caused to men like treat like dirt. Empty trucks, once filled with coal, lined up like men on the dole. Will they be ever used again, or left for scrap just like the men?
Back in 84, 85, I was just a foot soldier to start with, just a flying picket. I learned from men like Terry Harrison, Ray Lawton there, and other people, Jack Dunn, Jack Collins. I could play guitar then, I learned when I retired, but I thought at that time I wrote something about the line strike. So this is my song, it's called This Side of the Line. Back in 84, it started at Cornwood, and the call came out for solidarity, and we would do whatever we could. We would do whatever we could across the mining community down in sunny Kent. We do whatever we had to. Our anger was hell-bent. Our anger was hell-bent. So stay this side of the line, my friend. Get that in your head. 'Cause once you are a scab, then you might as well be dead. You might as well be dead. They stopped us at the tunnel, Thatcher's thin blue line, but they never saw us coming. We were fighting to save our minds, fighting to save our minds. We made our way across the land to picket with our mates, challenge Thatcher's thugs. We fought down at the old pit gates, down at the old pit gates. So stay this side of the line, my friend. Get that in your head. Once you are a scab, then you might as well be dead. You might as well be dead. Many a good man was sacked when we occupied our mine, but we kept on with our struggle. We stayed this side of the line, this side of the line. They may have closed the pits, but they never closed our minds. There are plenty of struggles going on today that will occupy our time, that will occupy our time. We stayed this side of the line, my friend. We kept our heads held high, proud to be a Kent miner until the day we die, until the day we die. All together we stayed this side of the line, my friend. We kept our heads held high, proud to be a Kent miner until the day we die, until the day we die. Very much. can I just say, I don't know the sheep song and everything, but the one thing, two things, and I'll keep it short, that really stick in my mind from 84, 85, being a young married man as a minor going out across the country, meeting people that I didn't know, have never met, and probably will never meet again. I was humbled by the support that they gave me, the money they put into our pot, the food they gave us, the tins of Serbian bean soup and everything.
They kept us going for
They
a
kept
whole
us
year.
going.
And you contributed.
So thank you for that down in Bridgwater, really mean that. One of the things, I left school at 15 with no qualifications, worked in a shoe factory. I've dug trenches, I've worked in a coal mine, I've been an educationist. When people ask me what I did, the first thing that comes to my mind is coal miner. And from being a coal miner, the first thing that makes me proud to being a coal miner is what we did in 84, 85. The fact that we stood together across the land with strangers, people, I say, we didn't know, and they linked with us, and then we put in one hell of a struggle. We will go down in the history books, but at the time, it was, well, it's enlightening, but to me, that's the passion. And that's when people ask me, coal miner, and then probably a flying pigget next. All right, thank you very much for your time. No. If we could turn the clock back, we'll go back again. I might even buy a round then.
You know, this is my celebration with Glen, Dave Chapple and Glen Burrows. Thank you night to all of you who've worked with us over the years and still work with us now, whether it's the Civic Society or the Trade Union Movement, or Ban the Bomb or whatever. And I'd like now Glen to come up to the stage and say a few words herself. Glen? Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Unaccustomed as I am to being invited suddenly onto the stage. Thanks a lot, Arthur. Tonight, I'm sure I'm not alone. Tonight has given me some hope again. I have been, like many of us, I think, going through a difficult time. The world, what is going on? You know, seeing some of the people that I remember from the 80s, from the miners' strike, seeing all of you and the way in which I think we've all come together has kind of reminded me of what I used to believe in solidarity and in going forward. So I want to thank all of you out there. Banner Theatre, our wonderful, wonderful friends from South Wales and from Kent, for giving me back some of that hope. 1984 for me, I was quite old, I was 35 in 1984, but I think I was pretty naive. The miners' strike taught me so much. It was a political turning point in my life, because I've always been a member of the trade union. I was a member of the Labour Party, but I'd never really experienced, first of all, that amazing solidarity, that fighting spirit, that amazing, amazing energy. And I tried to work closely by organising, helping to organise the miners' support group. And that was such a wonderful, wonderful experience. So, my thanks for that. But the other thing I hadn't really experienced was what a vile country we live in. What an evil regime. The police were paid, I think they were given a 13% pay increase. I think that's right, in order to do the government's dirty work for them with the miners. And now it seems, I understand that now, but I didn't understand it properly then. It was a complete shock to me to realise what the miners were up against and what the state represented and what the system represented, and how, for almost the first time in my life, although I'd seen myself as a student rebel, as a trade union member, for the first time in my life I realised that the system was not for me. The system was something I needed to fight and organise with others to defeat. And so that's what 1984 meant to me. It's never gone away from me, and isn't it happening now? Can't we see now what is happening? The way protest is being put down. Climate activists are now being treated like the miners were treated in 1984, and we must fight back, we must organise, we must stick together. And I suppose I've got to say something about, 40 years. Why did it happen? Was it his amazing good looks? Was he his charismatic personality? No. It was his politics. It was the fact that for the first time in my life I found a man who believed what I believed in, and I wanted to spend the rest of my life with that man, fighting for what he believed in. So thank you, Dave Chapple. Thank you for being the fine, principled man you are. You're a pain in the arse.